All right, here we go. I'm going to be doing a horse head. This horse head, Jean Autry. A guy came in and he wants me to do a horse head that fits on the front of a bike. So that's what we're going to do here. You can see the shape, basic shape here. I started working on the other side, rounding into it. So you start taking your contours. Always remember to put your center line on. Front, back, everything, all the way around, so you know where you are. And see, your center line goes all the way around. So anyway, here we go. We're going to start grinding on this thing. See where we're located here. Okay, we got a good location. This is made out of myrtle wood. Or no, this is made out of ash, coastal ash burl. Not much to it as far as color and stuff, so that's why I'm using this piece. The mane, I'm going to do the mane with the crazy glue baking soda trick and down the face to get the white. Remember, ladies and gentlemen out there, I don't use paint, stain, or glass eyes in my work. All of the detail is burned in or cut in with micro saws or other tools that I've made. The color that you see comes from turmeric and paprika and different types of spices and wood dust that I've collected over the years of different colors of wood. And the white is, like I said, baking soda and crazy glue overlay. Interesting process. There's quite a few people out there playing around with it. I didn't come up with it. Somebody told me about it, and I started playing around with it. And it is an amazing way to get the color white without using paint. Keep your speed down on your tools. That's going to do two things. It's going to give you longevity in your power tools because you have less speed, less heat, less friction, so on. But and the same thing goes with your spin tools and burrs. Less heat, less wear, and you have a lot less burnishment on the piece. I don't like that chatter. A little higher. I don't use a foot pedal because it makes you immobile. Everything is about mobility and two-handed capability. See, I've added an extension on mine. One reason I don't like the grease that gets on your hand from this little area here. This area here creates a lot of grease that gets on your hands. So I put an extension on it. It gives you more of a handle to grab onto. Two-handed is the way. When you're doing this stuff, keep your tool moving all the time. Don't leave it in one spot. You'll burn a hole. You want to keep it moving. It keeps the tool from filling up and embedding itself with particulates. They do get so embedded that it becomes they don't grind anymore. Take and put them in a vice grip and take a propane torch and heat them up red hot, burn everything out of it, run them under cold water, go back to work. You can pick all day long at these things and you won't get them clean. As you're doing this, just come up to your line and leave it. Don't take your line away. You'll lose your line of sight, your line of center, your center line. And don't get overzealous and take too much. Go down to a certain point and stop, and then come back to it. Because if you don't, you can overtake, and you can't you can't put it back, you guys. Basically what I'm doing here is just taking that and just rounding that off. You can see what I've done. Basic jawbone, where the jawbone comes down. The neck is going to be thinner. Come to your center line and just break that edge off. Round it off. Pretty rotten. I might end up having to add the ears on this piece. It's pretty rotted. This most of the wood I work on comes right out of the ocean. I'm living on the west coast here. And I get my wood free out of the ocean. And I don't have to kill anything to get it. So I have to deal with a lot of rot and borers and insects in the wood. I kill the insects in the wood with the microwave. I also dry wood in the microwave too. It has to be seasoned a while, but on the coast here, everything's at 20-25% if it's outside. Pretty rotted. Pick it away like that. I'm going to have to add the ears on this thing. Well, you get the gist of this piece. We'll come back into it periodically so you can see how it's advancing. And, that's all for this segment. You have a good day. Okay, we are kind of shaped in. What I'm going to do now is start balancing out from side to side on this animal. It's getting close, but you can see some problems here. Redraw your center lines if you lose them. This is a profiler. And this little guy right here is a cool little tool. You can take it and it will absorb the shape. What I do, I take a pencil and I just run a line right down there so I can maintain where I'm coming from. Right across that eye, right down along the nose. That leaves a line. And that also leaves a profile. That's why it's called a profiler. Anyway, it's called a profiler, and it leaves that exact profile right there on that line. So you can take it 180, put it on the other side, and see how far off you are. There's a few differences. I've got to go down further here because this is already gone. So you've got to match up your problems from side to side. What I do is reprofile to this side instead of that side. Just like that. So I picked up that little bit of differences right there. I'm going to use this other side here and try to bring pencil's not very sharp. Try to bring both sides together now. 180 this. So it's close. It's close. I've just got to take out some material right here. You can actually put a pencil mark there and kind of try to emulate what's going on the other side. That's where you gotta get rid of. Now you take your tool. This is called a flame. This shape here, and that's with the little dot matrix tungsten titty thingy that they put out. Awesome tools. When I started out doing this 40 years ago, they didn't have tools like this. Remember some of the cardinal rules I'm explaining to you about this stuff. When you carve, always replace your center line. If you take the center line out, you see I did it here, there, we'll just take and replace that. Get your little straight edge. Reestablish your center line. It's important because that keeps your balance, keeps you centered. So you don't take too much one way or the other. Heads are really hard to balance out. And so you really have to go slow. It's a slow, monotonous process to do that. But you can see, here's my old line. I took it in a little bit further there. I'll take it in a little bit further over here. So now you can go the other way and balance one side out to the other as you go. See that little spot right there? Right here. That's where it dips in. Well, you just take your, make a little oval. And that's what you have to relieve out. You're not going to see little things like that with your eye. It's just not going to happen. Depend on your tools. Get your spanners out and measure, measure, measure. You'll get to a point where it becomes second nature, but still, the little tiny stuff, you're not gonna get it. You have to measure. Shadowing plays is a great tool. Okay. You see the shadows changing on the thing, and that's because I'm moving that light around. Creating different angles of inception. And that is pretty close. It's pretty close. And all you're going to be able to do is get close. You're not going to get it perfect. There's no such thing as perfection. Where the neckline comes up to the back of the jaw, that's right in line with the ear. A straight line almost. It actually cuts in a little bit right behind the ear. All horses are like that. They got a hole right there too. It's like a golf ball hit them right there above the head. Okay, shaping this thing up now, starting to look a little bit more like a horse. Now you can take your tool and start playing around with other things. On these profilers, you have to reset them. So you find a straight, take a piece of wood and just push it right down on there and flatten this edge out. Get as much profiler pins, these are little pins, out there as you can. Straighten it out a little bit. And then you can put it on there. We're going to go right about here and push in and get that profile up and down on this thing. Just like that. And that gives you the profile all the way down. Sharpen this pencil. So you put your profiler on there, get it in place, run your pencil line so you know where you were, top to bottom. There you go, you got your line. Now you're going to have to guess this. You're not going to get perfect. And so from side to side. And so this is off a bit. Where am I going? Like that. There we go. Oh, it's pretty close. So, you know, that's not bad. Got to be taken in here. We're going to run this line down. There it is, like about that. It's pretty close. It's close. So we're going to take it. We'll leave that pins out on the bottom right there. That's a location pin. Forgot to mention that. See how it stops right there? Get right over. So we're going to knock this jaw off a little tiny bit right there. A little bit. And right here. A little bit of a hot point. I'm going to bring that position. This has got to meet. So that's only going to happen if you take this area down and that little hump off there. Try this. There we go. And that's not very much, let me tell you. It's like that much. And that much. Okay. Now. It's close. Okay, we can live with that. The time you get this sanded out. That's why I like using burl wood. You can see the grain. It's starting to accent all of the curves and the contours of the animal. And that's why I like using burl wood and colorful wood, because you know, the basswood and stuff, it's soft, and the tupelo, your softer woods, but you don't get the color. I'm a hardwood carver, guys. So you're seeing stuff that's normal people don't carve.
because it's too hard. That's what I want, though. That's how I get my detail, because it is so hard. Okay, we're going to come back to this in a while. I've got some other things I got to do on this thing that's very boring, and so I will explain them when I come back. Break time. Okay, we're back here. We got a lot of shaping done, and it's still in the rough stage. But what I've done here is went off my center line, and I did my eyes on each side. You do that, you take your spanner, put it in the center, and you find a general purpose or a general point that you want your eye to go from point to point. You make a circle all the way across to there, and then, or from here to there, anyway, from this point to that point, and that gives you your radius from eye to eye, and your position eye to eye on the back side of the eyeball. And then you come forward and about the same general thing, and you go from the back point to the center of the eye and across to the opposite eye, and that's how you balance that out. Here's the eyeball after it's been burned in place. Now, here's where you guys are going to run into a lot of problems. You're going to have to make your own tools. This is the tool that I used. I use a burr like this to make that. Round stock, just a piece of brass is what I start out with. Just a brass rod. This is a 3/8 inch brass rod. And this is a blank that goes into, you cut that off and make it into a blank, and that goes into the burning rod. And this is what you'd use to make that impression, is this type of a tool. These things you're going to have to learn on your own in a lot of ways through experimentation. I can only show you so much on how to make a tool. And the way you're going to make a tool is to make it, because they do not make these tools out there. These are tools I've made. And this tool is made to burn that eyeball just like that. See that smoke rolling off in there? That's about 900 degrees. And then that burns that eye. Then you turn that over, and 180 degrees out from where it was, and you burn the other eye. Just like, oops, moved. Just like that. And then you've got two eyes that are exactly the same, made with the same tool. Okay? And that's how I do that. Like I said, these tools, I will go through later in the future, I will go through a tool making seminar and show you how to make some of these tools. But the best way is for you to do it yourself, invent your own tool, and then you've got something that's original as well. You can try and do it exactly the way I'm doing it, but it's the way I do it. And so if you want to be an individualist like me, then you're going to have to learn to do this stuff on your own. I can show you the basics of how to make a tool and how to carve, but you are going to have to do it yourself in order to carve. I can't take your hand and make you do that with that tool. You have to take the initiative to do it yourself. And I can show you a lot of different tricks. And that's what this is going to be about. This whole premise of teaching is a little bit new to me, but I am going to learn how to teach you by doing. And so we'll come back to this a little bit later. The next process is smoothing it all out. It's pretty boring. If you can find a tool like this, this is a cool little sanding tool. It's this deal. This comes out of there. This is a tool you used to do. I can't remember what these are called. A sanding barrel or whatever. But see that? This fits right in there. It's a flat piece of paper. But this is emery paper. It's tough, made out of cloth, emery cloth. Hard to find nowadays. Probably have to get online to get it. Some specialty tool shops have this stuff on rolls. That's what I use. And this comes with it when you buy the tool. It just rips off its cloth. Now, you take your paper and a round pencil and do this number. Roll that right on that pencil. And then roll it the opposite direction from the other end. So it curls up from both ends evenly. I have to take a couple of the threads off in there, and these threads build up. And what you want to do basically is make two little eyeballs like that, real even. You know, that curls around like that. You take your tool, groove up, and you work it from the top. Slide that thing right in there. It takes some practice, and keep working it in as you push it down. Yeah, pushing that right down. Work it in from the top. And keep it as tight as you can. Roll it back and forth with your thumb, and that'll push that in there. Just go to there, right to the end. You can have it sticking out a little bit. I like to go to the right to the end of the drum. You take this out of here, that in there, run that back and forth a couple of times. Then you take your sandpaper holder, retainer tube, and sometimes you'll have to do that a couple of times to make that flow in there the way you want. There we go. Just work that right down in there. There we go. Kind of pushed out the bottom. There you go. Usually goes a lot easier than that. Sometimes you got to play around with it a little bit to make it work. Push it all the way down in there, and you take this number and give it a little bit of a twist. Put that on your cable-driven Fordham, and it's a great sanding tool. And you can shape with it a bit too. Yeah, it cleans that right up. Try to leave your center lines still. These are just they're already used. And there you go. You kind of get the gist of that. I've got, this is, I think this is 120 grit that I got on here. You graduate down with your grits. All right, you got the idea. These things are really cool tools. They make your sanding life a lot easier. All right, we're going to come back to this later. Break time. Zoom in on the project here. What I've done is is I've channeled out a spot in its head about 1/8 of an inch deep. In the pattern, it's in the front of the head of this horse. Now, I've only went down to here, and so this is what I'm going to do, is this area. I'm going to fill this in, this channeled out area, with baking soda. I don't use paint, stain, or glass eyes in my work, so I have to improvise with different colored powders. Baking soda, turmeric, paprika. What you do is you take a layer of crazy glue, not a lot, just want to cover the area. And it's going to puddle up in the lowest areas to begin with. I have to cover every single square inch of it, but you should. You're going to get a better layering if you do. It's going to start dripping over the end here, so you're going to stop. So, I use a sifter. It's just a little sifter guy. Where are you going to find one? That's a good question. And then you just put a little bit on at a time. See, it'll sink in. You don't want to put too much at one time. It'll leave an air bubble underneath and it'll look funny. Little small layers. Let the crazy glue and the baking soda react with each other. There's a chemical reaction between the two that make the baking soda set up almost immediately. You can tell if there's something underneath of it. It'll squeeze out to the side. So I didn't get it all in the first shot. I'm going to push that down, put a little bit extra on there. And just keep working it. Usually you don't have to do that. But that was a pretty deep puddle that it was in. Now, before you go for your next layer, blow the excess away or brush it away. See, I didn't get underneath there all the way. You gotta work that out. Use a fingernail or an implement of some kind. Work those bubbles out of there. All right. Put another layer on, nice and thin as you can get. Puddling thing, that's a problem. And just bring it up to the same thing right up on the edge of that. Just work it around. Like that. You'll be able to see where you gotta put it. And you take your sifter. Don't try and do it all at one time. Let it soak to the bottom. That dropped right down in there. All right. It'll hold up now. All right. Here we are. Got this partially filled in. You can see it's turning whiter and whiter. You got to go down about 1/8 of an inch or more. You know, the darker the wood, the further you've got to go down, or the wood shows through the baking soda. And you can't get it dark enough, or light enough, actually, white enough. Same thing, just scratch this stuff around and fill the void out to the edge. If you get a little bit over the edge, it's not going to matter. You're going to sand it back anyway. You want to bring it above the surface of your carving. Getting close here. Good even coat. And just tap a little bit on it at a time. And that'll let those granules sink to the bottom of the CA or the crazy glue. Otherwise you end up with a air pocket beneath the layer, the top layer of the glue, and very difficult to get rid of. You get a gob of this stuff on your finger and it heats up when it chemically reacts with the baking soda, and it'll do it so fast that if you've got a big enough gob on your finger, it will blister you. So, or you'll think it's going to blister you. It gets very hot. And it just sets up so fast. It's ridiculous. You'll see when you start playing with it. If you want to go this route, you don't have to do the baking soda and crazy glue trick. It's just the way that I do it. I don't use paint, stain, or glass eyes. I've said that for 40 years. It's kind of hard to change your path after you set it, you know. So be careful what you guys say as a motto, because you're going to have to live up to that. But this is a pretty cool way to get white. It's very luxurious when it's done correctly. It just adds a bit of mysterium to your style. Those go baking soda and crazy glue, really? Yeah, but that's true. That's what I do. You're seeing it happen right in front of your eyes. It takes some practice to get it right. Thin layers is the best. You've almost got that void almost completely filled now. You actually want to go a layer above where you wanted to be in originally, above the wood. That's pretty good layering. You'll be able to feel the heat in it. You just take your sanding tumbler, or you can rasp this stuff now and just clean that edge up to where you're back where you were. More speed. At the point of inception of the carving itself. You gotta watch the fumes from this crazy glue too. They get in your eyes and it's gonna burn like hell. You should be wearing safety glasses when you do this stuff. I've splashed it in my eyes before. It's not fun. There we go. Getting close to what we're looking for. Now, if that's not a cool little trick, then I don't know what to tell you. Let's see what happened here. Not bad, eh? Side view, but straight down. Now I'll work the muzzle end down here too. That can be a build-up at this point without having to channel out. And the bottom lip. That can all happen later. Okay, that's all for the day. I'll see you mañana. All right. Here we are back again. And as you can see, I've got the whole nose done with the baking soda trick right down the forehead. We're going to swing it back now. And now I'm going to do the mane with the baking soda trick. So I've already started here. I've taped this off. And you take an X-Acto knife or a good sharp knife and you cut in your design that you want that to come out to. And it, you know, just cut down into the wood a little bit, into the tape, pull your tape back away, and then you've got an area where it will start to build up and won't get on the rest of the wood. That's what you want. Make sure that you're, I'm using painter's tape here because it works great for this kind of thing. And just make sure that that is all the way down so it doesn't leak past. So you don't have to deal with that crazy glue getting out on your, or CA, whatever you want to call it, out onto the wood where you don't want it to be. And I rolled this one up on the back, and I've already got a little bit down in there. And that, you want a hump right there for the hair to come up and over. And so that's where we're at right now. I'll show you this process again if you've never watched it. What I do, I'm going to change the light here. A little more light on the situation. There we go. You take a small amount and run in that channel right there. Go all the way up to the ear. Just let it settle in for a second, even out. And then you take your little sifting guy, just a little sieve, and you just tap it a little bit. You don't want to do it all at one time. You want to go slow. Push on the back side of your tape. See right there where it oozed out a little bit? That'll tell you how it's drying up. Now it'll dry so fast, it's ridiculous. What I do now is you take all the excess away. Literally blow it out of there. You can take a little air gun if you want, but you got to get that excess out of there. Then you put another layer of glue. It's a thin layer. Just wait for a second, let it settle out. It'll gain its own spot. And then a little bit on there. Let it settle down to the bottom. Let the granules of baking soda go to the bottom of that CA. Yeah, just blew that excess away from there. See, it's so fast. It's already set up. It's incredible. Chemical reaction that happens. Doesn't have to be perfect. It'll guide itself. What I'm doing is building up a ridge here. That's where the hair comes off from the back of the neck and turns into that mane and starts to flow over. If you put too much on at one time, it'll leave a bubble back behind it. And then that shows up later. It's just a pain. So you've got to go a little bit slower and not try to put the entire layer of baking soda on all at one time when you're doing a channel like this, a buildup. There we go. Work it around with your finger too, but if you do, you'll end up with a layer of baking soda and crazy glue on your finger, and that's you got to sand that off. Don't try to pick it off. You better sand it off, because otherwise it'll take the skin right with it. I'll do one more here, and then you'll get the gist of it. And I'll come back to this later so you can see how it turns out. Because from this point on, it just becomes boring. And I just want you to get the gist of it. See this technique, how it works. See? It's already set up. 10 seconds. There, see it bubbling up right there? That's not good. That's what you put a little bit on there and push a little bit. Work that stuff back up out of there that's not set up. Just push on the back of that tape. I'll tell you where it's messed up. Remember, baking soda's cheap, guys. You can buy a whole big box of it for 39 cents. Okay, I'll come back to this when it's when I get ready to pull the tape off. Later. Okay, back again. And you can see how the crazy glue laid out here, baking soda. You can see the ridge I've got built up here. It turned out pretty good. The wave coming over the top of the head and back down across the forehead. And now what I'm going to do is start putting in the actual hairs. And I do that with a tool like this. And this is it's a micro saw that I've made. And it's really sharp, so it's going to take that material away a little tiny bit at a time. You want to use a real low speed. And here we go. And just pull that right down to it. Nice and smooth. As you're doing this, there'll be a little bit of a smoke coming off and a little bit of fumes, and you don't want to breathe that stuff. So have your little vacuum system that you've made up. It's adjustable. Come right in there and suck those gases off before you breathe them. And there'll be particulates in it too from the baking soda. You want to pull just down into the wood. Don't touch the wood if you can help it, because this hair is on the skin of the animal, not in it. I don't do the micro hairs on a horse, because then it looks like you've got a hairy horse, and hairy horses are winter horses, and they look all shaggy. So horses are very smooth-skinned animals. And so the only hair you're going to have is maybe inside the ears. Definitely inside the ears. Sorry about that. Definitely inside the ears, on the tail, and the mane, and what goes over the forehead, and then that's it. I use a real slow speed, because if you don't, then it starts to melt, and it builds up on your tool, and you're constantly cleaning your tool. You don't need high speed on a lot of this stuff. A little bit more light. See how that works. It could be too bright. Now, this is all about practice, you guys. The more you do, the better you're going to get. Just like anything else. Don't expect it to come out good the first time. You got to try and try and try. Practice on an obscure piece of wood before you do it on the actual animal that you're working with. So you can really screw it up too. When I first started doing this, there wasn't anybody doing it, as far as I know. And so there was no books or somebody you could get online. There was no online, okay, 30 years ago. And so I just made all this stuff up. Okay, you get the gist of this. I'm going to finish this all out, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. All right, there it is. Put a little light on it here for you. There is the beast. I hollowed out the back so it fits on the frame of the front of the bike. I'm going to have leather straps come from these points to tie it on. He wants it removable. But that wood is beautiful, isn't it? That's an ash burl I found in on the ocean, on the beach. Fantastic. And that is baking soda crazy glue overlay on a horse. All right. Until next time. Later, dudes.